Welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children. I'm Dan Wendelin, your host and storyteller. Years ago, I began recording the bedtime stories I told my children every night. Now, we would like to share those stories with you. I hope you enjoy my Stories for Wonderful Children. Andrew was having an ordinary sort of day. He'd been working in the backyard with his brother James on a project for much of the morning, when his mother called him in and said, "Andrew, your cousin Josephine's on the phone for you." So Andrew ran in. He said, "Hello, Joe?" "Hey, Andrew," said Josephine. "Are you busy?" "Well," said Andrew, "a little bit. We have a project in the backyard that's about halfway finished. We've been moving a lot of earth." "That's great," said Josephine. "Look," she said, "do you still like Jaguars?" "Oh, absolutely," said Andrew. "Jaguars are my favorite animal." "And," said Josephine, "we really like space, right?" "Yeah," said Andrew. "Well," said Josephine, "I've met this boy named Mo, and his sister Marmalade wants to send a Jaguar into space to the International Space Station." "Wow," said Andrew. "Really? That sounds amazing." "It is amazing," said Josephine, "and we figured out how to feed it, and there's a spacesuit for it, and everything. There's just one little problem." "What's that?" asked Andrew. "Well," said Josephine, "the space tourism company doesn't take Jaguars, and so we have to figure out how to send the Jaguar to space." "Yeah," said Andrew, "that's definitely a problem. So, how can I help?" "Well," said Josephine, "Marmalade, she thinks she's figured out a way to send a Jaguar into space, to launch it into space, but we need someone's backyard, and we were wondering whether we could use yours." "Oh," said Andrew. "Well, sure. Hold on just 1 second." He took the phone away from his ear. "Mom," he said, "can James and I use the backyard to launch a Jaguar into outer space?" "Sure," said his mom distractedly, who was at that moment busy chopping some celery. "Just don't make a mess in my garden." "Okay," said Andrew. He put the phone back up to his ear. "Okay, Josephine," he said, "there's just a couple problems. James and I are halfway done with our current project, so there's a great deal of rubble in our backyard. We'll need to get it moved, and we can't mess up my mom's garden." "Okay," said Josephine. 1 second." Andrew heard her talking to someone. "Okay," said Josephine. "Mo said that Marmalade will send you the plans, and here's a phone number if you need to get a lot of rubble moved." "Great," said Andrew. "We'll be there this afternoon with the Jaguar," Josephine said. "I'll see you then," said Andrew. "We'll try to have everything ready." He hung up the phone and then dialed the number that Josephine had given him. It rang. Someone picked up. "My name is Marmalade Jones, and I run the biggest trucking company. How can we help you?" "Yes," said Andrew. "I'm halfway through a project, and I have a new project, and it's launching a Jaguar." "Wait! Did you say you're launching a Jaguar into space?" "That's my project," said Marmalade. "Oh," said Andrew. "Wait, are you Mo's sister?" "No," said Marmalade. "Mo is my brother." "Okay," said Andrew. Anyway, yes, I guess, we're building your Jaguar launch system in my backyard, and I have a great deal of rubble that I need to move before we can start to build it." "Don't worry," said Marmalade. "I'll send a truck right over." "Great," said Andrew. "Thanks." He handed his mother back her phone and rushed outside to tell James the new project that was on. He had just finished telling James what was happening when they heard the of a very large truck. They rushed around to the front of the house, and a big pickup truck was just backing into their driveway. A woman hopped out of the front of the truck. She was wearing a jumpsuit that said the biggest trucking company. She said, "Are you Andrew?" "Yes," said Andrew. She said, "Here." She handed him a packet. "These are the plans for the Jaguar launch system." "Great," said Andrew. "Can you pull the truck around to the back of the house? We have some rubble we need to load into it." The woman pulled the truck around, and then she helped them load the rubble in, but even though it was a big pickup, by the time they had finished, it seemed like only a small portion of the rubble was gone, and the pickup was completely full. The woman put her hands on her hips. She said, "Well, this was our big truck. We'll have to send a bigger one. We'll be back soon." And she drove off. Andrew stood there with James, surveying what was left of their previous project. He ripped open the packet and read the instructions. It involved a lot of rocket fuel and a very large rocket, and Andrew did not think that this was going to work. "Look, James," he said, "see all the flames around the picture here? I think that if we launched a Jaguar like that, it would burn up Mom and Dad's garden, and I don't think that's allowed." "Yeah," said James. "I better call Marmalade back," said Andrew. And so he went into the house. He borrowed his mother's phone. He called the number. "My name is Marmalade Jones, and this is the biggest trucking company. How may I help you?" "Yes," said Andrew. "This is Andrew, and two things. We haven't finished clearing the rubble, so we need a bigger truck." "I have a bigger truck. I'll send it right over," said Marmalade. "And," said Andrew, "your plan won't work because it involves a lot of rocket fuel, and we're building this launch system right next to my mother and father's garden, and I'm not allowed to burn up their garden." "I see," said Marmalade Jones. "Are you sure you're not allowed to burn up their garden?" "Yes," said Andrew. I'm pretty sure." Said Marmalade. "I shall devise a different plan. I'll send it over to you." And she hung up. Andrew headed back out into the backyard. "It'll be fine," he said to James. It'll be fine." Just that moment, they heard the sound of... They ran into the front yard. The biggest truck they had seen in a long time was pulling down the street in front of their house. It took up both lanes of the street. It was an extremely large dump truck. It stopped in front of their house. A man got out of one side and a woman got out of the other side. They were both wearing jumpsuits that said the biggest trucking company. They walked up. "Are you Andrew?" asked the man. "Yes," said Andrew. The man handed him a new packet of plans. "Where's the rubble?" the woman said. "In the backyard," said James. And so the man and the woman went over to the truck, and from the sides of it lowered out two small bulldozers. The man and the woman jumped into their bulldozers and drove them around to the back of the house. James and Andrew watched as they bulldozed the remains of their project into a neat pile, and then, with a loud beep, 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 they backed the enormous dump truck into the backyard and used the bulldozers to bulldoze the project back up the ramp on the back of the truck. Then they got back in their truck, and with a vroom, they were off down the road. James and Andrew surveyed the nice, flat remains of their project. "Well," said Andrew, "I guess we better get to work." They ripped open the packet and carefully reviewed the drawings. "I like this plan better," said Andrew. "Yeah," said James. "There are no flames," said Andrew. "No," said James. "But," said Andrew, "that's a lot of rubber bands. Where are we going to find that many rubber bands?" James shrugged, but nonetheless, they got to work building Marmalade's launch system. They were about halfway through when they had to go inside for lunch. Over lunch, James and Andrew asked their mother if she could drive them to buy more rubber bands. "My goodness," she said, "these are a lot of rubber bands. What are you working on?" "A project," said Andrew. "What sort of project?" asked their father. "We're going to launch a Jaguar into space," said Andrew. "Really?" said their father. "That sounds like quite the project. Anyway," he said, "I have to go out. I'll take you out for rubber bands." And so after lunch, they went out and bought all the rubber bands they could find at the store. When they got back home, Andrew and James put the finishing touches on the Jaguar launch system. It was very large. It took up all of their backyard that wasn't taken up by the garden. Said Andrew. "I wonder how they're going to get the rocket here." And that was when they heard the distant roar that got louder and louder. They walked around to the front of their house, coming over the hill was the largest truck they had ever seen in their whole lives. In the back of the truck, there was a rocket and a cage, and as the truck got closer, looming over all the houses in the neighborhood, they could see way up in the driver's cab of the truck 4 people in the familiar big, bigger, biggest trucking company jumpsuits. One of them was his cousin Josephine, who was waving like mad. Andrew and James heard their front door slam, and their parents stepped out. "What," said their father, "is that?" "That," said James, "is the biggest truck." "Yeah," said Andrew, "they're bringing the Jaguar and the rocket." "Wait," said their father, "there's actually a Jaguar?" "Yes," said Andrew, "I told you that was my project." "Oh," said Andrew's parents. By that time, the truck had stopped, and the people in the jumpsuits were beginning to work on unloading the rocket. "That's an actual Jaguar," said Andrew's mother. Josephine walked up the driveway with a boy with dark skin and dark curly hair right next to her. "Hey, Andrew," said Josephine. She ran up and gave him a hug. "This is my friend Mo." "Hey," said Mo. "Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you," said Andrew. "I'm so excited to see the Jaguar. The launch system's all ready. We've got all the rubber bands together. Are you sure this is actually going to work to get a Jaguar into space?" Mo shrugged. "Marmalade said it looked right in all the pictures she drew." "They were very good pictures," said Andrew. "Where does she get her crayons, anyway?" "I'm not sure," said Mo. "I'll have to ask." They walked around to the back of the house. Andrew's parents were very impressed with the Jaguar launch system. Andrew's father said, "So, explain to me again why there's a Jaguar going to space?" "Well," said Mo, "my sister wants to study how Jaguar's balance works in space, and also she's trying to develop a robotic tail for astronauts to help them balance in space." "Huh," said Andrew's father. "And," said Andrew's mother, "does she have like an arrangement with the space station to do this study?" "She's still working on that," said Mo. "She's supposed to call me as soon as she's got it all worked out. She hasn't been able to get through to NASA before now." "Uh-huh," said Andrew's mother. At that moment, the big, bigger, biggest trucking company people were just moving the Jaguar cage on its wheels around the side of the house and into the backyard. "Hey," said Andrew, "can I get my picture with the space Jaguar?" And so he and Josephine and his parents all lined up next to the cage, and Mo took their picture with the space Jaguar. Just after he had taken the picture, his phone rang. "Hello," he said. They all heard someone talking very loudly and very quickly on the other end of the phone. "Uh-huh," said Mo. "Oh, really? They wouldn't? Oh, that's terrible. So, what are we going to do?" Okay. All right." He hung up. Mo sighed. "What is it?" asked Andrew and Josephine. "Well," said Mo, "Marmalade finally got a hold of NASA, and they said that they're not going to allow any Jaguars on the International Space Station. Something about safety concerns. I don't know. Anyway, we can't launch a Jaguar into space." "Oh," said Andrew and Josephine. "But," said Mo, "she's talking about some sort of underwater exploration project now." Andrew put his hands on his hips. "What are we going to do with this Jaguar launch system project?" he said. "Well," said Mo, "we've got lots of room in the biggest truck. We can just move it on to there." "Okay," said Andrew. Andrew's parents agreed that they would probably prefer that the Jaguar launch system not remain in their backyard. "Come on," said Mo. "We can get it moved." He led them around to the front of the house where the big, bigger, biggest trucking company employees were lowering from the sides of the biggest truck 4 big forklifts. "All right," said Mo. "You gonna help out?" "Wait," said Andrew and James and Josephine. "Do we get to help?" "Yeah," said Mo. "These forklifts are robotic, so all you have to do is tell them what you want done, and they'll move it for you." So each of them got to get into one of the robotic forklifts, and each of them got to say, "Move the Jaguar launch system into the biggest truck." And there was a clicking and a beeping, and then the forklifts moved like dancers that were choreographed in a nice line to the backyard, and then smoothly into a circle around the Jaguar launch system, and then lifting together, they carefully backed into the front yard and then up onto the biggest truck. With the Jaguar and the rocket and the launch system all safely stowed on the biggest truck, the robotic forklifts back in place, Andrew and James stood in the front yard of their parents and waved as the biggest truck went roaring off to take Josephine home and the Jaguar off on its next adventure, perhaps under the sea. And that's the end. Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's story, but questions and witty commentary were supplied by my children. The music was created by Brandon Thompson. If you enjoy the show, please tell someone about it or leave a review on your podcast provider. Our website is storiesforwonderfulchildren.com, and you can also find us on most social media. I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.